Hey everybody, it's Devin.
And Kate.
Welcome to Med Crimes.
And here we are once again.
Hi.
Hello. Girl, it's getting so close to Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
I still haven't wrapped a goddamn thing. This is a problem.
I spent another 2 hours wrapping gifts yesterday for people that did not belong, like, not my kids.
For people that aren't my kids. I know, that's even the worst. Like, I do so much for my kids, and then it's like, ah.
I did that while my entire family was upstairs either napping or resting.
Oh, God. That sounds miserable.
I wanted to be resting.
But, yeah, wrapping presents is not restful at all. It's very stressful.
No.
I hate it.
And then you're like in such awkward positions, whether you're either standing or sitting, and then you
I'm
got
too old for that yoga. I'm too old for that Pilates of gift wrapping. I get up off the floor and my back is screaming at me. My legs are numb.
Yeah.
I can't even do it.
I'm sure as we're recording this, like, it's a big baking weekend.
It really is.
Right?
Yeah,
Everybody's making their Christmas treats.
Yes.
Which we just did.
We made Christmas treats
We
together.
did. We took our lunch break and
awesome.
we made some Christmas treats with our kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, that was fun.
This
They're
has
having
been
a
really
great
fun
time
Sunday.
together.
Yeah.
Our husbands are just the best dads.
They are. I love just watching
baby
them
dads.
together. Yeah, our baby daddies.
They
We
so
picked good
while we
ones.
were recording our episode earlier, they took the kids out sledding and were showing us all sorts of pictures.
Oh
maybe we
gosh.
should post some of those pictures.
Oh, I
that
definitely
David
think
took
we should. Yes,
to
good
be
idea.
like what's going on behind the scenes while the moms are podcasting.
While the moms podcast, the children are sledding in the backyard.
And it's all thanks to the dudes, the dads. We're some pretty lucky girls.
We really are. We love you guys. Mwah.
Mwah.
Mwah. Oh, Devin's got a little sexual with it. It's all good.
So
today we have a really interesting case. It's super frustrating, but at the end it's like
aren't
mind
all these
blown.
cases frustrating?
Oh, they
I'm just
are.
saying.
A lot of them are. And so today we are talking about a guy named Dr. John Schneeberger. And there is a bit of a trigger warning here because we are going to talk about sexual assault. It's kind of a wild story, so hang on to your butts.
Sexual assault?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bummer. So, if we're ready, we can dive right in.
We're ready.
All right, Dr. John Schneeberger. So, I like to typically go into the early years of these guys and their development and, you know, the childhood, because sometimes we can kind of get some clues as to why they do what they do. But this guy is tough. I don't really have any childhood information on him whatsoever. And it's because I know that he was born in 1961 and he was raised in a country called Northern Rhodesia. And it's now known as Zambia. But back in the day, it was Northern Rhodesia. So he was
Where is that?
Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Zambia is a
right.
country on the continent of Africa.
Thanks.
Africa. So, all I really know about him was the year he was born, 1961, and that he did really well in school, and that he received his medical degree from Stellenbosch University in South Africa. And that was in 1986 that he graduated. Now, in 1987, he decided to move out of South Africa and to Canada. And at that point, he applied for his citizenship, but because he was a physician, I guess, got to be there and start a practice before his citizenship even went through.
Oh, okay.
So he arrives in Canada and he starts to essentially practice medicine. So the town that he decided to settle in was Kipling, Saskatchewan in Canada. And it was here.
Saskatchewan. I just love that
Yep.
word.
Saskatchewan. I know, I like it too.
Saskatchewan.
I like it too. Anybody out here that from Saskatchewan?
Does Sasquatch live there?
God.
Just, I mean, I don't know. I had to ask.
Does he?
I don't know.
He might.
Nobody knows.
It's okay.
Nobody knows where Sasquatch lives.
Nobody knows the Squatch. So it was here in Kipling, Saskatchewan, that he met Lisa Dillman. And Lisa and John both hit it off right away. And she was a recently divorced mom of two. She had two kids from a previous marriage. And the two dated for a couple of years and finally married in 1991. So John's starting to put down roots here. He found himself a wife who's already got the two kids. And let's talk a little bit about Kipling, too. So Kipling, Saskatchewan, is a tiny, tiny little isolated town kind of in the middle of nowhere. And the population is like minuscule. And they say that the farm animals here literally outnumber the residents.
Oh, wow.
It's one of those towns. And everybody just like knows each other. It's a really quiet community. It's close knit. The crime rates are very low. Nothing happens here.
Kinda
Everyone
sounds
just
like a place that I honestly want to go live right now.
I mean, literally, it sounds
Can we go?
pretty amazing. These people just like wake up and like milk their cows and mind their own fucking business.
That's what I want.
That's what I want for myself.
I know. I mean, I could go without the milking the cows part, but I mean, if I could just
even
wake
that
up.
sounds nice. So, John started working at Kipling Memorial Union Medical Center in Kipling, Saskatchewan. And he kind of established himself as the community's doctor. He was like the doctor for pretty much everybody in this tiny town of Kipling. And he was well respected. Everyone really liked him. He was young. He was like handsome for that area. He was like a mustachioed man. Like not my type. I looked at pictures of him and I was like, oh, it kind of seems nerdy. Everyone really liked him. He was young, handsome, mustachioed, like I said. He and Lisa.
Does that mean he has a mustache?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. I just didn't know if that was a characteristic of something else.
No, he was mustachioed, as in he had like a handsome, floofy mustache. Mustachioed.
A mustache.
Yeah. Everyone had a mustache back in that day too.
You probably need it to keep your face warm too up there in Canada.
Yeah, I know, right? It probably was cold up there. I don't know. Anybody from Saskatchewan? Is it cold in there?
Okay, is this a stupid question? But where in relation to things, like where in Canada is Saskatchewan?
I don't know. I did not physically look at a map of Saskatchewan.
Like, is it near the U.S. border? Or is it like way the fuck up there?
I think it's
Like
way the fuck up there,
Arctic.
but I don't know.
It's gotta be.
Guys, tell us.
Right?
We need a geography lesson.
Oh.
Really bad.
Sometimes I get afraid to ask these questions because then people will be like, are you dumb?
I didn't think to like figure out where in relation Saskatchewan is.
I gotta think it's northern, right?
It feels
because
northern.
if there's
I don't
more
know what
animals
about it.
than people and the whole mind your own business thing,
I feel like it
we're
feels
like
northern.
Arctic level, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with that.
Okay, cool. So he and his wife Lisa went on to have 2 more children around this time. So he had 2 daughters of his own, and then 1 stepdaughter and 1 stepson. So there were
Beautiful.
4 total, 3 girls and a boy. So now he's established himself in this community. He's got a wife, he's got kids, he's put down roots, and he's a few years into starting his practice here in Kipling at the Memorial Union Medical Center. So let's meet Candace. Now, Candace's last name is unreleased, and every publication I can find puts Candace in quotes as if that's not her real name. So I don't know what her real name is, and I didn't dig to try to find it, and let's just call her. We're just going to call her Candace.
Who is this?
Or Candy. She goes by Candace and Candy in publications.
Is this lady?
Well, we'll talk. We're going to
Tell
talk
me
about
more.
her. So she was born and raised in Kipling. She was like through and through a Kipling
Small
girl.
town Kipling girl.
Small town girl. We like her. So she had been working at a gas station. She had a boyfriend named Danny. Candy one night was working at a local gas station, and this was Halloween night, October 31st of 1992. Her boyfriend Danny had come in to visit, as he did many times at night. They got into an argument about something. They were both hollering and yelling, and she left her post at the gas station, and she got into her car and drove to the medical center because her medical center was a staff member that worked at the hospital, and she thought maybe that person was working the night, and she's like, I just need to talk to my best friend. I get what that's like.
Me too.
Yeah.
We had to come up with a podcast so that I could talk to my best friend. I mean, legit, weren't we just sorry for a side rail,
Yeah,
but
it's all good.
how much were we saying before podcasting how it's like we never get to see each other, blah, blah, blah. Like we always have these things, and now we have this hobby
And we just like
It's like
make
what?
time for it.
Once a week, once every other week.
Once every other week, we've been hanging
I think
out.
it also helps that I have your work schedule at my beck and call.
I know, I
so
love
it's
that.
like I can like pinpoint.
You can be like, okay,
day.
I'm going to be there at the 17th at 9 a.m.
Instead
Be
of
ready.
guessing.
Yes, exactly.
You working? Anyway,
I love
sidebar.
this. No, it's all good. I like your sidebars.
I recommend everybody out there get a copy of your best friend's work schedule, especially if they have a crazy one. I mean,
Like
if
me.
you're the typical Monday through Friday, then whatever.
Yeah.
But
I don't care about Devin's work schedule. I know her work schedule. It's easy. So, all right. So Candy is working at the gas station. She and her boyfriend get into a fight. She leaves her post at the gas station, goes to the medical center to seek out her best friend so that they can talk. She arrives at the medical center. She goes to the reception desk and she asks for her friend. And it turns out that friend was not working that evening.
Aww.
She obviously did not have her best friend's work schedule.
telling you, it works.
It's a bummer. So she was visibly upset. She was shaking. She was breathing really hard, and it looked like she was having a anxiety attack. So the nurse that was there tried to comfort her, but ultimately said, why don't you come back in the office and we'll have Dr. Schneeberger take a look at you. So Candy actually knew him. She
That was nice of her.
I know, she was one of his patients. I mean, he took care of everybody in the community. So she really trusted him. She knew him. He delivered her baby. He
Aw.
delivered Candy's baby. So she's like, oh yeah,
And
John.
her best friend
like,
just so
yeah.
happens.
He's-
Well, I mean, I guess small town. There's probably only one doctor
There's
there.
one
so
exactly. Yeah.
he does
so,
everything.
so she trusted him. She was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So she was escorted to one of the exam rooms, and she waited there for Dr. Schneeberger. The two talked for a while about what was going on. She recalls telling him, I'm so mad at Danny that I feel like I'm going to go out and kill him. That's what she said. She said, I remember telling him that. She was using it as an expression. She didn't actually want to kill him. She just was really pissed about something that Danny did. I don't know what he did. And she was obviously super upset. So he checked her out. He did a little exam. And he did tell her that he believed that she was having an anxiety attack. And he offered to give her a sedative to calm her nerves. Candy figured that what Dr. Schneeberger meant by that was that he would prescribe her some pills to take at home so that she could, get some sleep and relax. But what he actually did instead was draw up a syringe full of medication and give it to her right there in the office without telling her what it was. So this is what she
first move.
I know. So this is what she recalls of what happens next. She begins feeling numb all over. She soon loses control over all of her muscles, and she literally falls over onto the exam table, like sideways, because she could not hold herself up.
She was just like almost like
She
paralyzed.
slumped over. Yeah.
Like,
So she recalls at that point trying to say something and yell and scream, but she couldn't, and she could only manage like a little bit of a croaking noise.
she couldn't even talk.
Couldn't even talk. So she's not certain about the timeline of events that follow because her memory here becomes very fuzzy. But she felt very strongly as if she was being sexually assaulted. So she compares the feeling to being at the dentist. And she said, quote, when the dentist numbs you up and pulls your teeth, you can't feel any pain, but what you do feel is the pressure and the sensation of the tooth moving back and forth.
So she felt
pressure.
vaginal pressure.
Yes, like behind her, essentially.
Oh,
That's the only way I can think to describe it, end quote. And that's how she
I guess.
described
Yeah,
it.
I get. It's not
Yeah.
painful, but it's just
Right,
like
it's a
something's
sensation. Yeah. So the next thing that she recalls is waking up in the exam room completely alone. And immediately, this girl has the presence of mind to remove her underwear. And she grabbed a plastic Ziploc baggie from one of the drawers, and she throws her underwear in that Ziploc baggie.
there. That a girl.
She's so smart. I can't believe she thought to do this.
Alrighty.
So she does still feel dizzy. And the nurses then, who came to check on her, offered to have her spend the night on a stretcher in the ER so that she didn't have to drive home. And she did. She said, okay, fine. That's fine. The nurses at this time recall that this entire time that Candy was there, she did not mention anything about what happened to them.
I wish she did.
I wish she did too. So,
Because she saved that bag for a reason.
exactly. Of course she did. So the nurses, in the morning, she woke up in the stretcher and Dr. Schneeberger comes by to check on her. And she confronted him. because she knew something happened. She was pretty
she
convinced
thought it
something
was
happened.
because it all started like
Yeah,
after he injected her.
Exactly.
Okay.
She
I gotta hate
says,
myself.
"What the hell did you give me last night?" And his reply was, quote, "Why did it give you wild dreams?"
Oh,
I know. So she knew at that moment, she's like, this guy gave me something, sexually assaulted me, and is now spinning it like I hallucinated the whole
I
thing.
hate him already.
We hate him. We hate this guy. So she recalls thinking to herself at that point, he already is covering his traps, and I'm going to have a fight on my hands. So Candy is like a fighter, by the way. She's like, this is the wrong broad to do this to. There's never a right person to do this to, but like Candy is not going to let this shit go. And we're going to see that she just does not let this go.
Loving you, Candy.
I know. So she was released. Immediately, she goes to chat with her parents. She's very close with her parents. And she told her parents what she believes happened. Immediately, they believed her because they know Candy. And Candy would never just like say this.
And what parent doesn't know their child? And then all of us, obviously, any good parent, I would think, would support their children when they're saying
in this
accusatory
situation.
stuff like this.
Exactly. So they know she's telling the truth. They are devastated because they know John Schneeberger. He's their doctor.
Of course, everyone knows.
Everybody knows this guy.
Right.
So they're devastated that he would do such a thing. So she drove to Regina because there's a rape clinic there. She had a rape kit done there, and they identified semen on her panties, on her jeans, and with a vaginal swab. And this confirmed her suspicions. She's like, I have not had intercourse in weeks, like on my own. So this had to have happened.
Be no reason
why that should be there. So she had some blood work done as well. And at that point for toxicology, because she had claimed that she was sedated with a medication.
Well, there was definitely, she was given some things, whether it was that sedated her or not. But
so a drug called Versed was identified in her system.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So let's talk about Versed. So Versed, or midazolam, is a benzodiazepine, and it's used as a pre-anesthetic sedative agent. It's often used during procedures for the purposes of sedation, and it works by inducing sleepiness. It does relieve anxiety, but it can also depress the muscle function substantially, which is great if you're going under for a procedure. But it will also cause things like amnesia, meaning you lose the ability to create new memories. Again, great for procedures.
I was going to say, so nobody realizes what's happening to you during a colonoscopy.
Exactly. Right? That's the purpose. It's great when it's used correctly. It comes in oral, IV, and IM forms, and given as an intramuscular injection, which is what we're suspecting happened here, it takes about 15 minutes to come to a full effect, and then the effect can last anywhere from 2 to 6 hours in total, given that route. So the timeline does make sense.
Yep.
So
the timeline and the symptoms.
Right. All makes sense. So Candy, again, is saying that she had last had intercourse with her boyfriend, Danny, like several weeks prior to this night. So there was really no reason for there to be any genetic biological material found where it was found. So at this point, she knew that she had been drugged with Versed and raped by Dr. Schneeberger. She made a formal accusation against Dr. Schneeberger, and almost immediately the entire community did not believe her and turned against her completely because he is a well-respected guy. It's kind of everybody's physician.
It's kind of like, in a way, Dr. Hicks.
Exactly.
Right? Small town doctor.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent reputation. Everybody's backing up around him.
Exactly.
I think it's interesting how all of these stories have very much similarities.
It's really interesting. Yeah. We find all these very similar situations. He'd had no prior accusations. He was like the town doctor. Everybody genuinely liked this guy. And there were a bunch of rumors that appeared that kind of speculated that maybe she's romantically interested. He's like a young married doctor, and like he's like the most prominent guy in town, like status-wise. And she's a young single mom, like
gold digger kind of thing.
Or that she was motivated to get like a financial settlement of some kind from him by accusing him. And just everybody immediately completely dismissed Candy. So one big red flag for
hate
people. I know. And then as the investigation details rolled out, a lot of people found the fact that she said nothing to nursing staff that night to be a big red flag. Which, you know, the whole thing is like the staff.
I'm half on that one.
Well, here's the thing. She spent the whole night there, and everyone was saying, well, if she was raped, why wouldn't she say something right away? And sexual assault survivors deal with this particular thing all the time.
I can see that.
All the time. Because she was traumatized. She was under the influence of Versed. She probably didn't feel safe knowing that he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Why would she put herself in a position?
And if you think it's your doctor and that you now can't trust your doctor and you're in his office, so
exactly.
who else can you not trust?
Why the hell would you want to come forward at that moment?
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of reasons here, and this is why people don't come forward when they're sexually assaulted because of exactly what's happening here. Investigation was initiated, so Dr. Schneeberger was cooperative with the investigation, and to end the controversy, he graciously offers to give a blood sample for DNA. So he's like super cooperative with all this. He's like, yeah, I mean, I'll give you my DNA so that we can just put all this to bed and settle it.
Okay.
So
now I'm intrigued.
I know. So somebody comes to collect the DNA. He rolls up his sleeve. He gives a blood sample. The DNA did not match Candy's rape kit. So Candy was shocked and in absolute disbelief. She was like, this is impossible. How can this not be? I want to know how this happened.
I want to know.
I picked this story, Devin, because it's wild at the end when you figure out how he did this. Hold on. So at this point, I mean, Candy is shocked in disbelief, and like everything kind of fell apart even further for her.
That poor girl's mental health.
I cannot even imagine.
Because now she knows she was raped.
Yep.
Because of all the other evidence.
Exactly.
But now she's like, well, then who? And
yes.
Oh my God.
So she's like, okay, so this guy, he gave a DNA sample, but I am concerned that something happened to the sample. Somebody tampered with it or swapped it out. He's got a lot of connections. Like, that's my big concern.
Like, who's backing him up?
Exactly. And so, as a side note, she was like ostracized from the community at this point.
I'm sure.
She was a single mom working at a gas station, being painted as this unsavory character, trying to ruin the life and career of this like well-loved and respected physician.
Well, no wonder why that might not be her real name, and her real name isn't published, because look at what this did to her.
Exactly.
So whoever the real Candy is,
yes,
I'm sorry.
I am so sorry that this happened to you.
Sorry.
And I mean, the community like really tried to like shut this down and move on for it, but Candy persevered, and she, despite getting all this negative feedback, did not let the issue die. She's a bad bitch.
That a girl.
She really is awesome. So she was convinced that somehow someone screwed up the test, tampered with the result, intercepted it, or something happened. And she knew what happened to her. So Dr. Schneeberger right away jumped up and offered up another blood test to put this issue to bed. This time, the blood was drawn by a registered nurse. The test was monitored closely by police. So a police officer was there, observed the needle penetrate his arm and withdraw 2 vials of blood from his left AC space, his inner elbow. And the test files were taken directly to the forensic lab, never leaving police custody. Okay. To ensure the integrity of the evidence. Yeah. They kept a close record of the chain of the custody, and they took really good care of the sample. Once again, the DNA was not a match. So Candy did not believe them. She's like, I don't know if the DNA is wrong. She did not know if, am I the DNA is said to be 99.9999% accurate. Am I the 0.00001% that this is happening to? Because she was sure, and she did not stop. I mean, this girl did not stop chasing this guy. So
kudos to her, but how difficult that must have been after 2 DNA tests.
Right.
They were probably at this time like, give it up, girl.
Yes, exactly. So Candy still didn't believe them. She still didn't know if the DNA was wrong. But around this time, Dr. Schneeberger made a statement that Versed, although he never denies using this medication with her. It's an odd choice but it's not entirely unheard of for treatment of anxiety attacks. And it can cause hallucinations. And in particular, it can cause erotic hallucinations, is what he's saying.
I don't know if there's anything erotic about rape.
Well, there's not really. So the case was closed, unfortunately. They had evidence to support that Dr. John Schneeberger had nothing to do with this. So he gave 2 samples, and his DNA profile twice did not match the semen that was found on the rape kit. So they were really at a dead end. So it's not like they didn't have enough evidence. They had evidence that directly contraindicated Candy's claim. It was devastating for her. This whole thing dragged on for a total of 7 years.
Oh, God.
Isn't that crazy? Through it all, Dr. John Schneeberger's wife, Lisa, stuck by his side and was very supportive of him and all of his efforts to get the issue put to bed, so to speak. So, Candy at this point is desperate, and she did not give up. And at this point, she hires a private investigator out of her own pocket named Larry O'Brien. So he lived on the edge and was not afraid to get shit done. Larry
As
O'Brien.
most private investigators do.
I know. So
not afraid of danger.
He was a bit sketchy about it, though. So he was tasked with getting another DNA sample. So he, being a little sketch and living on the edge, broke into Dr. Schneeberger's car. And there he found a few strands of hair from the headrest on his seat, and he also stole a tube of chapstick from the console. And Candy sent the lip balm and the hairs to a lab at her own expense for DNA testing. Unfortunately, the hairs didn't have roots, so DNA testing on the hairs was not possible with those. But the lab was able to isolate some of the epithelial cells from the lip balm, which contained enough DNA. Devin, the DNA from the lip balm matched Candy's rape kit.
Finally.
I know. Candy
I'm so intrigued.
Finally, Candy gets like a shred
and this
of
is
validation.
like over 7 years later, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there were 2 problems, though. A, there's no real proof that the lip balm was the doctor's. Yes, it was found in his car, but there, you know, the evidence was inadmissible. Secondly, because it was illegally obtained. I
was going to say it wasn't obtained legally.
So, question remains. If this was Dr. Schneeberger's DNA, why did the DNA differ from the blood samples that he gave? It'll all make sense soon. So, investigators were left, like, scratching their heads. But since he had passed 2 prior DNA tests, officials were hesitant to charge him or to even reopen the case.
Right.
But Candy files a civil suit against Dr. Schneeberger at this point, and the pressure, again, is on him. And once again...
What would the civil suit do? What does that do?
Well, it just shines a light on him again.
Right. It brings it all back up.
She can sue him because she now has, like, a tiny bit of evidence that he was involved in something. The pressure's on him again because of the civil suit, and then once again, he offers to do another blood test, so graciously. This time, it was videotaped by police and performed at their lab. I highly recommend you guys Google Dr. John Schneeberger's DNA or blood draw video, because it is very interesting to watch. So...
Can we link it? Can we post
Yes,
it?
I will definitely link it in the show notes for you guys. It is really interesting. So the technician there asks to take a sample of the blood from his finger for the test. He declines, stating that he has a disorder called Raynaud's phenomenon. And Raynaud's is a circulatory disorder of the hands and fingers, which can cause poor circulation and vasoconstriction of the fingers.
Yeah.
So he asks to have the blood drawn from his arm, and in particular, the left inner elbow. Since the test was voluntary, he couldn't be forced to have the finger sample taken, and he can give the sample any way he wishes. So the tech has him roll up his sleeve, sees a nice big fire hose of a vessel, and she inserts the needle. She pulls back on the syringe and nothing comes out. She switches out the vacutainer because sometimes those vacutators lose pressure and they're faulty, but that didn't work either. So she keeps at it. Eventually she's able to manipulate, a tiny sample, a few drops of blood. And afterwards, if you watch that video, you can hear what she says. She makes a comment about the appearance of the blood that she drew. And she states, quote, "It's very strange that the blood didn't look fresh. I don't know," end quote. And when the lab received it, the sample was too degraded for DNA testing.
So he was putting in blood into his left AC.
Hold on.
And then they were withdrawing
Devin
the used
is like
tampered
the wheels,
blood.
She is trying so hard, you guys, to solve this. It's crazy, right? So police told Candy and that, they couldn't even use that blood because it was so degraded. And she said, quote, "This is bullshit." I have a video of her saying it. And she's like, "You guys keep screwing up. This is my life here. And I want to figure this out." So April 25th, 1977, police get a break because some startling new information broke. Now,
somebody else came out.
Yes. So Dr. Schneeberger's teenage stepdaughter comes forward.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. So she says that Dr. Schneeberger had been sexually assaulting her for years. She states that her stepdad had been coming into her room at night, giving her injections and raping her. And she finally came forward to her mom, Lisa, and she blew a fucking gasket, as any good mom would.
Oh, thank God.
As one does.
I thought you were going to tell me it would be the opposite.
No.
Oh,
she lost her
God.
mind. She did some snooping around, and she found this big box under their bed of condoms, syringes, vials of Versed and other drugs like Ativan, Compazine, all sedating medications. And Lisa finally began to realize that this guy might actually be capable of what he's being accused of. So this is when things start to fall apart a little bit for Schneeberger. So, yes. So immediately he's arrested because of these accusations, and he was ordered to undergo another DNA test. Now, this time, because he's under arrest, he can't pick and choose where he has it drawn from. He can't decline to have it done from his finger. And they had a warrant. So his behavior changed this time around. Everyone involved in the investigation said,
freaking out this time.
Prior, he was like enthusiastic and helpful and cooperative, and he was always so forthgiving and jolly, if you will. Not so jolly this time around. So he was like withdrawn and cold and just not really wanting to help. So they took from him hair, saliva, and blood. All the fluids.
Where'd they take the blood from?
His finger, not his arm. This time, all 3 samples came back and matched Candy's rape kit. Hallelujah. Finally, Candy had been validated. It took 7 years for her to get to this point. It was a very happy day for Candy and her family, obviously. Her parents and the investigators.
Justice hasn't been served yet.
No, but finally she gets validated, though. I mean, the community at this point, too, finally realized that she was right all along, and she felt really vindicated. But the big question is unanswered.
It's still my question.
How did he fool us all with these prior tests?
I want to know. I want to know. Tell me. What was it?
Devin's freaking out.
I want to know.
So everyone was scratching their heads. All of these tests were monitored. Chain of custody was carefully monitored. Like, how the hell did this happen?
He put something in his arm. He did something.
Yeah, all right.
What did he do? Tell me.
November of 1999, the trial begins. He pleaded not guilty, and he maintained that he didn't rape Candy. He claimed that he believes Candy stole a used condom from his home and planted his biological material on and in herself in order to frame him and obtained a financial settlement, which is just fucking ridiculous. Now, on the stand is when he reveals how he fooled the DNA test. He admits that once he was under scrutiny for rape, he was desperate to get the spotlight off of him and to offer solid proof he didn't do it. So, at his clinic, he stole a patient's blood sample, which was in a test tube. Now, some of these test tubes will contain a preservative that keeps the blood from degrading and also keeps it from clotting, right? So, he opened up a test tube with one of his patient's blood samples in it. He mixed it with the preservative. It was mixed with the preservative and anticoagulant that keeps it from clotting. It had already been
in the vial.
Yep. And he injected it into a small plastic tube, which what he used was part of a Penrose drain. So if anybody here is familiar with a Penrose drain, they're used oftentimes like after surgical procedures to like drain the drainage from around the surgical area. So he tied one off at each end and formed an enclosed tube full of blood, like a small, tiny little tube full of blood. He prepped and draped his own left arm, numbed himself up with lidocaine, made an incision above the crook of his left elbow.
With that tube.
And surgically inserted this tube
so they never even hit his vein. They injected right into a tube.
Yes.
Fucker.
I know. So he surgically inserted this tube beneath his skin, lining it up perfectly with where the AC space is, the acromioclavicular space. It's a common spot to draw blood. And then he sewed himself back up. And if you watch those clips, guys, this is why I highly recommend. You will notice that he never rolls up his sleeve very far, only just above the crook of his elbow so as not to reveal the scar.
Right.
And you can even see the tube protruding from his arm. It's very obvious. You can see it and be like, oh my God, there it is. There's the tube. So, and it looks like a huge fire hose of a vein. This is why he was so insistent on having his blood drawn from that spot and like from that arm. So
Raynaud's my ass.
Yes, exactly. So this is why when he gave blood that third time, 5 years after that accusation too, the blood looked quote unquote old, and it was difficult for the nurse to get because A, there wasn't much left in the tube to draw, and B, it had been 5 years, and after a while it degrades whether or not there's a preservative in it. So it had been in his arm for 5 years at that point. So he claims that he did this because he felt he was getting railroaded. And he knew that it was, quote, my word against hers, end quote, and he did it to prove his innocence, and he had no other way to defend himself.
It's not exactly your word against hers when there's your semen.
Exactly. So he claims that he felt that he had no other way to defend himself, which is just bullshit. And he was grasping at straws. Anyway. So Candy chose to testify against him, and you don't have to, but she wanted to. She's like a tiger.
I mean, I'm sure at this point too, it's so many years later. So it's like, you know what? She probably has the strength and the courage, and she's that pissed off enough.
She's been
versus
thinking
it's
for
not like
7 years.
6 months later. I'm sure she's been through years of therapy and whatever else. Like, she's ready.
Oh, she is so ready. And she killed it, actually.
I'm sure she did.
She was cross-examined by Schneeberger's defense attorneys, and she just totally discredited everything they attempted to trip her up on. And she was like a force to be reckoned with. She really just wanted to make sure that this did not happen to anybody else. It had already happened to her and a child. Like a child. So Schneeberger, at the end of this, was found guilty of sexual assault, as well as administering substances without consent and with obstruction of justice for all the bullshit that he pulled with the fucking tube in his arm. So, he was also convicted of sexual assault to his stepdaughter, and he was sentenced to a teeny, tiny, pathetic 6 years in prison.
What?
I know.
Total. Stop it.
Isn't that just awful?
Stop it. Stop. What?
So, don't worry. Because things get just a little bit better. So in 2003,
he's dead.
No, I wish. So in 2003, he appealed and he lost. So he was stuck in prison.
Yeah.
Now, since his incarceration, his ex-wife Lisa, who comes through in the end and is like kind of a little bit of a hero.
Not a girl.
I know. She has been making efforts to keep him in prison. She is doing everything she can.
Well, you keep assaulted this guy. Her kid for years.
Yes, exactly. So, also in 2003,
was she not like a minor? Too?
Oh, she was.
So it's not just rape; it's rape of a minor.
For years,
and he gets
had
6
done this
years.
to her. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Isn't that pathetic? In 2003, though, Lisa started pushing for his deportation back to Zambia. She worked tirelessly to have this done, and in 2004, she got her wish. Because his Canadian citizenship was revoked, officials realized that he had lied about something on his citizenship application.
That's fucking right.
So they withdrew his citizenship status, and he ended up back in South Africa. So he moved to...
In a jail in South Africa?
No.
Damn it.
He's released. He's living with his mom in Durban, South Africa, where he remains a permanent resident. He is out of prison. Now, I did actually see an article that said he was applying for his medical licensure in Africa, but that application quickly got withdrawn when that blew up headlines.
But that's still, he could still rape people.
Oh yeah,
without a medical license.
Oh yeah, of course you can.
All right, so I'm not completely happy with that ending.
No, I'm definitely not happy with the ending at all. I feel like people that are sexually assaulted are, it's so hard for people to come forward, and people wonder why people don't come forward. This
yeah,
is
it's
exactly
shit like
why.
that.
It's shit like this. Not only did Candy get ostracized for years from her community, nobody believed her. Everyone
they're
believed
eating
the
their
rapist. And then in the end, she jumps through all these hoops, finally gets her validation, and he spends 6 years in prison, which isn't even the amount of time that it took for her
him
to get him convicted and put in jail. So
I'm really
it's
pissed
bullshit.
that it's 6 years.
I mean, super pissed.
Again, it's Canada, so
Yes.
we don't. But come on.
It is, and I don't know the laws in Canada, but I know that even in the U.S.,
If we have any
for
Canadian viewers, could you give us a little light on this?
Yeah, we want to know.
I'd be interested to know, would it be the same sentence in the U.S.?
Exactly.
I
we
really
wanna
freaking
know.
hope not.
We really freaking hope not.
Oh.
So,
Here we are again.
Is the story of Dr.
Here we
John
are again.
Schneeberger.
I'm still pissed off.
I know. Here we are at the end of this, and we're pissed. Also, anybody out there who's been a victim of sexual assault or knows someone who has been affected by sexual assault, we love you. We see you. And whether or not you decide to come forward, we understand why you make the decision to do or not to do, because we are grossly, under where we should be in terms of resources for people that suffer from that.
That's an understatement.
And from a legal standpoint, it's is it worth it? It essentially ruined her life for a lot of years in more ways than one.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it's just so upsetting that this happened.
Here we
so
are.
on that note, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Another downer, but
Another
Merry
downer.
Christmas.
Sorry we're such bummers.
I think by the time you and I get back together again, it's going to be 2022.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, it's going to be 2022.
Ugh.
I hope everybody has a happy holiday.
Us too.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year.
Stay safe, please.
Spend time with your family.
Absolutely.
Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Yes, please do. And if you guys want to shoot us a follow on Instagram at MedCrimes Podcast, you can send us a Twitter at MedCrimes PC.
Tweet.
And you can search us on Facebook by just searching MedCrimes Podcast. And if you want to become a Patreon and help us update everything and stay on the air, you can visit www.patreon.com/MedCrimesPodcast. Devin,
Thank you.
do you have anything you want to add, Devin?
This freaking rocks.
I mean, yeah, of course it does.
Go Med Crimes.
Go MedCrimes. Yes.